Welcome to Rainy Day Recess, where we study and discuss Seattle Public Schools. This is our 2025 Seattle School Board Candidate Series. For each conversation, we start with a lightning round, then ask 2-minute questions on the role of the school board in leadership and governance, and what is the real impact these candidates believe the school board can have on Seattle Public Schools. Today, we're releasing interviews with all 6 of the District 5 candidates. District 5 is roughly East Seattle. Earlier this week, we released our interviews with D2 and D4 school board candidates, and we'll cover D7 after the primary. Transcripts are available at rainydayrecess.org. This episode is our interview with Julissa Sanchez. Be sure to listen to our interviews with Alicia Weil, Janice White, Landon Lebowski, Vivian Song, and Vivian Van Gelder, which are also in your feed. We'll give you a quick preview of those interviews at the end of this episode. Hello, everybody. I'm Christie Robertson.
And I'm Cherylynne Crowther.
And today we are here with Julissa Sanchez. And I want to thank you for running for school board, Julissa, and welcome to Rainy Day Recess.
Thank you for having me. It's truly an honor.
We are going to start with a lightning round, and this section is meant to just help listeners get to know you. And we'll start with, what are your name and pronouns?
My name is Julissa Sanchez, she, her, ella pronouns.
And how do you describe what you do?
I am the Director of Advocacy, and what I do is center and amplify voices of young people so that they can create the change that they want to see and create the policies that they want to impact their lives and advocate for the resources that they need.
What director district are you running for, and what neighborhoods does it encompass?
District 5, Capitol Hill, and the Central District where I grew up at.
And hi, this is Cherylynne. Next, we're going to go and look at some background questions. You can answer yes or no where possible and add a short explanation if something needs context. So, have you attended a school board meeting?
Yes.
Have you testified at a board meeting?
Not yet.
Have you testified to the state legislature?
Very much so, many times.
Where did you go to school as a child?
I went to Bryant Elementary School, which we were bused to from the Central District. And I went to Washington Middle School. And then we were gentrified out of the Central District. So I went to West Seattle High School. And then I graduated from Interagency Academy.
Do you have or have you had kids in Seattle Public Schools?
I officially have a junior at Garfield High School.
Have you had kids attending school outside of Seattle Public Schools?
Oh, no, I have one son in just Seattle Public Schools. No, power to the people that have more than one kid.
Have you worked in education?
Yes.
Have you been in a union?
The tenants union. It's not technically a union, but it's a tenants union.
Have you been on a board?
Yes, briefly, for the tenants union.
And have you ever worked with a large budget?
Yes. As director of a advocacy program, I work within my budget. It's not as big as the school district, but I'm a single mom. We're resourceful. We do what we got to do.
Not many budgets are that big. Now for some quick takes. Who is an educational leader you admire?
Ooh. An educational leader that I admire. I'll go local. Liz Wizar from CSEC is somebody that I admire. I was completely surprised, actually, that I hadn't heard that she has a master in Chicano studies. And just her presentation in empowering young people at the Alianza workshop and talking to young Brown, Latina, Indigenous young people about the power of their education and their histories and Chicano history. It was just, I think that is a powerhouse, especially here in the Northwest. So shout out to her.
Awesome. Who is the school board director you're looking forward to working with?
Ooh. Sarah Clark.
What's one education policy you support?
Ethnic studies.
And do you see the school board role more as a trustee with a duty to the institution or as an elected representative with a duty to the voters?
A duty to the students, a duty to the young people, a duty to the voters, the families, a duty to the community. That's my thought.
And what's one thing you'd like to change about the school board immediately?
Whew. I think that from the outside looking in, it looks like there is more engagement with young people on the board, but I immediately want to make it bilingual, accessible to different languages. Immediately want to include and centralize students' voices and experiences and all the things that we do. And let's keep it short.
Cool. Thank you.
And lastly, what is one lightning round question you would ask of other candidates?
How connected are you to the community you're trying to represent?
And what's your answer to that question?
I am shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow with my community. And I amplify their voices. I'm not here for my agenda or my voice. I am a leader that likes to pass around the mic and the megaphone.
Awesome. So let's move into the main questions. These focus on institutional change and the role of the school board. You'll have 2 minutes for each one, but don't feel like you have to use all the time. So let's jump in.
So I'll start. What does a school board director actually do?
The school board director actually reviews. The big thing that I hear is about the budget. They're actually the ones that approve the budget, review the budget, counsel on the budget. They create policies that directly impact students in schools.
And what should the board focus on most when it comes to finding the next superintendent?
I think it's really important to highlight the technical things in a superintendent, like the review and creating of the budget or like allocating budget funds or whatnot, and being able to like oversee and guide an entire district. However, what I fear and what I don't hear a lot is to make sure that all communities are represented in the way that the superintendent is going to be leading the district. So I think that what we need to focus on is having somebody who is grounded in community, who understands diversity, especially right now when diversity is under attack. And I think it's really important for a superintendent to be like the values that they hold are centering students and the humanity of the people that he is or she is leading. And of course, like we need to focus on the business part of things and keeping the school running and making sure that we have enough money to feed our young people and enough money for the textbooks. Of course, we need that. But in order to have that, we need a superintendent that really understands the struggles and the solutions of the communities that they are leading.
So what do you think is the right balance between centralized control versus school-based decision-making?
Does that question make sense?
I'm trying to, no.
Here, let me stop the timer and just explain a little bit. So there was a big move about 30 years ago to move the control from central office out to the schools. And then there was a big move to pull everything in and not let schools be individualized so that you could try to ensure quality. And so it's kind of like where in between that do you think things should land?
Let me think about this one. But, okay, listo. I think school-based decision-making, that sounds to me is more of a grassroots because school-based is more connected to the students and to the parents that they serve. And so they are able to understand what kind of resources they need for the students that they serve, if they are English learners, if they are special needs, and what are the actual things that students from this school need in order for us to meet them where they're at. However, I believe that there is a way to balance that in a conversation within the principal being able to gather this kind of data from students and parents in multiple languages, and also connecting that information perhaps in a cohort of principals and talking about what is going on in the schools. How do we better serve at a centralized place? But because the resources are so centralized, in order to allocate them correctly and abundantly in the schools that are needed and what resources they are needed, because the principals are the ones there and the teachers are there. So they're the ones that knows best what their students might need.
So, what should the board do if the district isn't meeting the goals for students?
I think this is where accountability comes in, because similar to the last question about, like, so the district is centralized, right? And the school board is closer to the communities being served. And this district can put these goals for students or for teachers. And are they being accountable to distributing the resources that students need in order to meet these goals? So it is like a cycle, and it's a relationship of reciprocity here, right? Because we can't expect our students to meet these goals and then not give them the proper food and the proper instruction and the proper resources. And the board, it needs to be the one voicing these experiences and these needs from the students and the families, especially from families that have been left out of these conversations for ever, and or families who do not feel welcome because of the language barrier or because of the culture not being something that they feel welcomed or supported. So I believe that the board's job is to hold the district accountable and bring the district into the community.
Okay, so then what should the board do when the district isn't meeting community expectations?
When the board is not meeting community's expectations, I think that it's important for the board to take a pause and to self-evaluate, and for the board to hold community meetings. In my work with the Latinx community, for example, they feel more comfortable talking about their expectations or their needs or what they want for their students when it's a community event where Spanish is centered and where their culture is present. So when the board is not meeting community expectations, is it because these expectations are not being translated correctly for the board, or is the board not meeting with community in a respectful and culturally relevant way? And I think we need to step back and evaluate, where are these expectations falling short, and how is it that the board and the community can meet at a solid place in order to continue to listen to each other and grow and create realistic expectations and move forward. Listening and hearing out the community is going to be the first place, and to hold ourselves accountable in the ways that we are not meeting the expectations and needs of the community.
Great. So the last question to kind of wrap it up is, what's something you want voters to take away about your approach to being a school board director?
What I want voters to take away from my approach as a school board director is that I am very much a grassroots person. I am a community organizer. I am a person who doesn't like to move forward without my community, without the community. and that I listen and am able to create solutions. I think that comes from my superpower of being a visionary and being able to envision new realities, especially when it comes to the futures of our young people. Also, that my leading is definitely going to be with the voice and experiences of students, and most importantly, underserved students. And right now, my approach is really going to be very protective of undocumented students and undocumented communities and English learners as myself and young people who are in special education programs, and really listen to like what do they need, because they are the experts of their lives and of their solutions. And really, young people are so wise, and we as adults sometimes forget that. So definitely an approach of, for lack of better words, community fiestas, community get-togethers, community abundance and joy, because that's what needs to be cultivated right now, because or else we're just not going to make it. We're not going to make it if we are not solid and grounded and supporting each other in this. And that's truly my approach. And working together in solidarity with the other directors.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here today, Julissa Sanchez. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts with us and with Seattle voters. And best of luck on your campaign.
Thank you so much. You guys have a beautiful day.
Yes,
Awesome.
thank you.
Be sure to listen to our interviews with the other 5D5 candidates. Alicia Weil.
A lot of the time, people will look at a resume of a candidate and say like, oh, do you have policy expertise? I know how to read a report and write and craft things as well, even without that policy background. And honestly, the result of those with that background hasn't been very good. As a common person, as a gig worker, as someone who is from the population, it's just hard to see wealthy, resourced people trying to make an effective policy for us. Time and time again, it just seems to fail. And I think we know what we need.
Janice White.
We have a law in Washington that defines the responsibilities of school board directors. And as a lawyer, that's where I start. And that law is actually a lot broader than many people realize. School board directors write and adopt policies, hire and evaluate the superintendent, and approve the budget. And those three things are important, to be sure, but I don't think they tell the whole story. Starting with the state law, it says that the school board is accountable for the proper operation of the district. Not the superintendent, the school board. That doesn't mean that the school board should get involved in day-to-day management, but the school board must have processes in place to be able to know whether the district is operating as intended by its policies.
Landon Lebowski.
The school board needs to be able to understand the complex issues happening at the district level and really dig into the policy issues happening with funding, dig into the operational issues that are happening with transportation and like insurance at schools or keeping the lights on at schools. But then on the flip side, we need to be including parents and community members more. And you need to be able to take that information and communicate it effectively to reach a wide audience.
Vivian Song.
So there are 5 or 6 things that are listed in the state law: hire and evaluate the superintendent, set the vision for the district, adopt policies, oversee the budget, and service community representatives. I think what has been really missing in the last few years is the serving as community representatives. I think it's been really interesting that the district has been trying to push forward on really large changes and been met with community resistance. I think that is a reflection of the fact that the district hasn't brought community along in those decisions.
And Vivian Van Gelder.
I think the shortcomings of the progress monitoring system that the board has set up right now are kind of a reflection of the lack of capacity inside our central office to actually engage in meaningful organizational change and restructuring, which is what we desperately need. Progress monitoring is not a bad idea in itself, but that kind of model can only work when the initial conditions for it exist. And that means that you need a central administration that can actually be responsive to what the board is asking of it. And we don't have that right now. When we don't have the conditions for accountability, it can't really work.
Ballots will be mailed Friday, July 18th, and primary ballots are due by Tuesday, August 5th. As always, stay curious, stay cozy, and thanks for listening to Rainy Day Recess.